So welcome to another conversation for Millionairess magazine and the Millionairess movement. I'm Amanda Jane Clarkson, editor-in-chief, and today I'm delighted to be joined by the lovely relationship expert, Jamie Hirsch. Jamie specializes in helping people get over relationship failures. This is going to be a good one, and fast. Her work has spanned more than a decade, during which she has trained and mentored with some of the biggest names in the personal development relationship coaching industry. Jamie has personally interviewed more than 300 individuals, probably a lot more by now, and couples regarding the most meaningful aspects of lasting relationships. She is the author of several books, including Breakup or Breakthrough. I love that. 7 Steps to Getting Over a Breakup, and The Attraction Factor. 7 self-awareness tools to ponder before starting a relationship. Wow. Welcome, Jamie. So, Jamie, why don't you share with us how your journey to where you got to today actually began?
Interesting journey. And, I'm going to try to, cut the story as short as I can and navigate me if I'm going off. I mean, my story phenomenal. When I was in my mom's tummy, it began where she was telling me she had this dream. She didn't know she was pregnant, but she had a dream that she was having a baby girl by one of the Hindu goddess, Mother Lakshmi, which is the goddess of light. Right. Now, my family tradition, there's Hindu, but I grew up Christian, right? And so she went to the doctor and they said, yeah, you're pregnant and you're having a girl. So, I didn't think of anything of it. Like, that's just a dream. It's a coincidence, whatever. But when I was born, there was something about her. There's something special about her and all these other, things that occurred in the story. But, I would think that because of that story, I'm like a superwoman with an amazing life from the start. But let me tell you, Amanda, that's not how it was. I was like, wow, there's lessons and lessons upon lessons and lessons for me in this world to learn. And one of them is in the area of relationships. Now, if I was to tell you I'm a master of relationships and they come so easily and I know how to get through them really quickly, I would be lying to you. That's why it took over a decade and over, tons of studies and hiring the best mentors, working with the best coaches to get to this stage. So through relationship failures, I've really dug deep into myself, my learning, my growth and development. We have mastered the techniques and the skills when it comes to overcoming relationship failures fast.
Well, you sound like you absolutely love what you do. So you've taught hundreds of, Is it mainly women or do you do men and women? You've got no gender preference there?
No, it's no gender preference. It's actually both men and women.
Because, we are in relationships with each other in many ways. So what is a piece of wisdom that you can share with a woman? Because I know many, many women who are chasing the right man. What would be a piece of advice or a special piece of wisdom that you could share with these women that are on the hunt?
On the hunt is really, that's a great question. I get this asked a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not one size fit all, Amanda. If I was to tell you there's just one size that fit all, it's, it's which most people would tell you, do this, let him fall in love with you, or do that, and she would go crazy. And then we get into the cycle of manipulation and bringing the ego involved, and then we're caught into a trap. And we take that on to another relationship, and the cycle repeats itself. And if we really get clear, what I like to tell people is getting clear about what you want. What you want is going to be different from what I want, and vice versa. That's why it's not a one size fit all. What is your need? What is your value? It's going to be totally different than mine. And that's why knowing those things, I would say, is my best. And knowing thyself, I would say. Those are some of the wisdom I can throw out there.
Yeah, I love that. And I that's what I say with women. First of all, love you, love yourself. I think that's where it begins. Well, it did for me, but this is not about me. I want to go back to you. I remember reading a little bit of your story when I think it went back many years about somebody that you loved them more than they loved you at that time, and you were heartbroken. How did you overcome that and discover your I don't even like to call it passion, let's call it purpose of helping other people break through their relationship problems.
Yeah, and that's what it really hit me that particular relationship is really what woke me up. I was not as conscious about it, even though I was more into my growth and development and learning. But that relationship really took it deep, where I got really, really close to darkness that the light shone at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense. So there I am, kneeling on the floor. It was like a 9/11, like the United States had the occurrence on 9/11, where everything was just dark. The whole world was like sad. There was me just kneeling on the floor. I felt hopeless. My world was dark. I looked to my left and right, and I noticed this black book. I picked it up, and it was a Bible. And I started reading through it. I would give you beauty for ashes. What was meant for your harm, I would use and turn it to your advantage. And there was a light that started shining in me. So the first thing I did, Amanda, I got a notebook and a pen, and I started writing. And then came about the 7 chapters to break up or break through, which is how to get over a breakup in 24 hours or less. And, I built upon those chapters. And then I tested those for years and years and years, and also with other people. And then before you know, that's the formula, the breakup or breakthrough system formula.
So can we delve into some of these 7 steps? Because we're going to be sitting there going, tell me more, Jamie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Amanda, if I was to sit here and say, hey, listen, follow these 7 steps, do it as is, and you'll get over a breakup in 24 hours or less. Absolutely, right? However, there's work involved, as you would know, right? I can go to the gym and run on the treadmill, but if I'm not paying attention to my diet or my self-image of myself or my mental attitude, the whole formula is not really going to work, right? And this is the same thing. So, really and truly, someone has to want help in order to get the help. It's not like, here you go, try this. Someone really have to really be mentally prepared to overcome and be willing to grow and learn out of this situation. So the 7 step will work for someone who's willing and ready.
So you're saying the first step is awareness and being aware of where you're at and what you actually want. So making that change.
Yeah. So, I would like to say this. So I'm going to give you a couple of steps of the formula, right? So let's say, okay, you're in a turmoil of a breakup, right? So a relationship failure. So what's going on if we associate loss with pain, and there's pain and suffering? Anything that we associate with loss, there includes pain and suffering. So the first thing in that step is, like you said, awareness, right? So what is the awareness telling you to do? It's stop and feel. Now, you may be like, what do you mean stop and feel? So it's stop and feel. Means stop the dialogue in the head. Because the dialogue in the head is a horror movie, I'm pretty sure. Because it's not a pretty movie, because it's allowing us to feel devastated if that's the case. So stop and then feel the emotions that are coming up. So I think one of the things we get trapped into is going into the story and allowing the emotions to be a whole bunch of dialogue, where the emotions are just a signal and our body's a conductor, which emotion is energy in motion. So it gets to go through the body as a conductor to be released. But if we keep suppressing it and ignoring it, eating a bunch of food, going partying, bunch of alcohol, it will just continue to be suppressed.
So Jamie, so we're sitting there and we've had a relationship breakup and we've become aware and we're feeling that emotion. And it's not feeling good because we're thinking about the story in our mind. So to help women, how do we break that cycle, or how do we break that pattern in that moment to take that one step closer to moving through that?
Great question. And I love your clarity and narrowing this. And it's going to seem so simple when you're
love it.
Grieve. Just grieve. Allow that grievance to take place. because not grievance is what prevents the miracle. And when we allow ourselves to grieve and that emotion to go through, because that is not in the present moment. That is actually a grievance from the past, like a childhood grievance, right? And it just carried on, it built upon itself because we believe it's the present moment. So just grieving and being with that emotion without the thoughts about the emotion.
So you're saying let the pain go through, you feel the moment, just be in the moment instead of trying to run from the moment.
Yeah. Be that. Like, so sometimes I feel, in any event, I could feel it in my heart. There's a sink, there's a tension. And I would just lay there and just focus on my heart and just be with that. Be with the child that it's, whatever it's attention, whatever it's looking for, and just be with the emotion and forget the thoughts, but just be with it and allow the motion, so emotion, energy and motion, just to go through.
And is that a certain time frame? So just say we're going through this emotion and it might be an hour or a couple of hours, or could it even be days, weeks and months? Or would you suggest to people, don't let it go on for a long time? Or what are your thoughts on that?
It really depends, right?
Yeah.
Just we have different voltage, right? Different voltage with electricity. This depends on us. How long have we been carrying that on for? How strong is it now? Right? Some of them takes a couple of time, and it's by us being present to that emotion and that feeling. But if we keep suppressing it, and best of all is blaming someone else, always pointing the fingers. I was one of those people. Anything go wrong, I always like to point the fingers and blame everyone else, right? And I look within and I heal whatever is there. Right? Because listen, we can be in the same situation, Amanda. I may be ticked off and you're not. Why? Because there's something about that triggered me that did not for you. So it's whatever there is for me to heal. I get to internally heal it. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to heal if it's not triggering you.
Exactly.
We know what gets to be healed based on what's triggering us. And that's the beauty of it. Those are signals. And we get to appreciate that.
And so when we go through that grief process, Jamie, what are we hoping to see on the other side? More clarity of where we do want to go to, or what would be the next step for somebody that goes through that grieving process?
I would say, Amanda, off of all the studies I've done, you feel a sense of power. Just think about it, right? Think about an old boyfriend you used to cry all, couldn't do without, think that life would be over. No, now it's like you moved on. You probably have a new relationship. You're like, I can be around that person. It doesn't bother me. Yeah. That's the stuff of empowerment. That's a certain confidence. That's the value. And that is exactly, you don't feel the triggers. You're able to be emotionally stable in that situation. And that's a great way to see how we're evolving. What are something simple as being jealous? Person who gets jealous easily, right? How can we tell? Jealousy is just really a put down to the self. It's just saying that, that person looks better than me. That person there's always something better than, and it feels a threat, right? So how does someone know they're evolving from that? The more they work on themselves and see the value and learn to love thyself, then you'll notice the same incidents that got that person jealous will no longer occur. And that can show a sign of, wow, like you're asking, would you get more clarity? Yeah, you get more clarity because it does not trigger as it did before. Is that making sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving this conversation. It's pure gold. Anyone listening to this will be getting a lot from it. And I just love the depth that you're going into to explain it. And so from here, what would you say from your experience, Jamie, is one of the greatest causes of relationship breakdowns?
One of the greatest causes is not believing in our worth.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And it seems as simple as that, right?
Yeah.
Not believing in our worth.
Can you explain your version of what that means? Because we have a thing here, self-worth equals net worth equals life worth. We talk about self-worth all of the time, but I would love to hear when you talk about self-worth as in relationships. Would you like to delve into that for me a little?
Yeah, self-worth in relationship is really knowing that, is it being contribution to someone else, not really in a needy state, or wanting that person to fill me up, for example, or always needing their reassurance, or allowing the power of their words to put me down, because then that's saying I'm allowing that person to control me. But if I know my worth and my value, I know where I'm going in life, regardless of where the relationships takes place, I know that I am worthy. If someone wants to go out and find chicken knowing they have steak at home, that's them, right? Because I know my worth. So I mean, it comes down to really knowing that we're each individually, uniquely. I don't think God is unfair to say, I'm gonna make you great, I'm gonna make you okay, I'm gonna make you fair. Right? I don't think that's a good, valid statement. I think, we're all born equally and we get to decide on how we mentally engage in that process. So knowing our worth.
Yeah. And what about the women who are listening to this or watching this? I'm pretty sure most people will be watching it. They don't feel good about themselves. They're always putting themselves down or thinking that, there's no one out there for them. And they just feel like it's never going to happen. They're never going to find the partner. What's your advice to these women? Because there's a lot of them.
Yeah. And it's, that breaks my heart. It really does.
Yeah. Mine too.
And that's what, just going back into this work, the summits that we're having, the conferences, it's all about relationship mastery. And we're covering the whole spectrum. So your question was, what would I suggest?
Well, the women going, well, it's okay for you. You're beautiful, Jamie. I'm this, I'm that, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm too old, I'm a single parent, I've got no money, I'm too old now, all the gamut of the excuses of why it's never going to happen, but they're desperately wanting to meet someone and they just have low self-esteem. What do you say to women like that? Because there are millions and millions and millions of them, millions.
Yeah. Yeah. So think about this, right? And you give a very good example. Think about that person looking in the mirror and someone wants to date them, but this is everything that's coming out of that person. Would that make them attractive? So it's like, if that's how you feel about yourself and that's what you think, that's the reason why it's difficult. Who wants to be with someone who doesn't want to be with themselves?
I love that. Write that down, girls.
So that's where it comes down to, and really just looking at that mirror, because that is what we're speaking to someone else, non-verbally. And I would say work on it really begins with the self. It really begins with working on the self. And if it's other focus, it's going to continue to be a misery. It's going to continue to be a rat race. If it's outer focus, like, oh, I'm waiting for him, the perfect who? If we're not the perfect person for ourselves, there's not going to ever be a perfect no one. Right? And that's where the hang up comes. Because that person's going to come and the puzzle is not going to fit together. And it's still going to be a hang up.
They won't see them.
What's that?
Well, if that person comes into their life, they won't see them because they'll be blinded by their own stuff.
There you go. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't last very long. And then you're like, oh, I thought that was the one.
So if you were helping a woman and has all these negative feelings and connotations about herself, when she looks in the mirror, she just does not love herself. And you say to her, the first thing we're going to talk about here is learning to love you. And then the perfect person will turn up. What would be a couple of steps to help someone to go from self-loathing to self-love, to self-worth?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things out there, Amanda, about self-love. And I think we get hung up in like, okay, what is self-love?
Yeah.
Does it mean I go to the gym, I do some yoga, I exercise, I have a healthy diet? That can be artificial. However, really sitting still and focusing on the heart and really just being with, first I would say just be with yourself. Just taking that moment and breathing and just settling in and start getting to know that person within. Start getting to know that person within, and the answers will come. Whether a person of yoga lights you up, dancing, whatever it is, group activities, right? Or even simply being a mom, but just really tapping into the heart, like the heart science. We all have that in us, that connection. And that's where the answers are. So I would first say to get still and focus on thy heart. And that's where the true self reveals itself, by getting quiet.
And softens as well, softens the woman perhaps as well, because I've seen many instances, as I guess you have, that women can sometimes get angry and hard after a certain time goes by. And I think sometimes just being with yourself can soften you and learn to be appreciative of yourself and just having time to yourself. Would
Yeah.
that be true?
Yeah, you know what? And this is what I found, Amanda. If someone cannot be with themselves, even though you're an extrovert considered, I mean, that's just saying something, right? It's just saying how we value ourselves as a person.
Yeah.
And because if we can't be with our own company, what makes us feel like someone else would? And if they are, maybe we will be okay with being in abusive situations. We'll be okay in being in those relationships that put us down or make us not feel good about ourselves. And then that validates the message we have about ourselves, about not pretty, not good enough. And we get that same person that puts us down and make us feel like we're not.
So talking about that type of relationship, Jamie, what about the women listening to this or watching this going, well, it's okay for you. I'm in a relationship, but I can't get out of it. What would you just say to those women who believe or perceive that they're stuck within a relationship that they don't love?
So, Amanda, there's something going on there that it's a sense of neediness, and it's sense of if I don't have this, my life will be less than. Or this person may find someone prettier, or they may find someone and have a better life where I can just put up with it and just, why not build up with them, right? And do it in misery. So it's either, there's some kind of loss associated. I will be less than, I will lose out on this opportunity because this person's being put on a pedestal, and, self-worth is so low that they're okay with that route.
And if they really wanted to escape or move away from that type of relationship, but they're in fear, what advice would you give to these women, and what could be a first step to the self-worth in order to empower themselves to be able to move out of that type of relationship if they chose to?
Yeah, some great questions. So, one thing that we find ourselves, especially in those needy situations, right, is that there's a bunch of control going on. Like we want to control and we want to find a sense of certainty. And that's, there's more resistance there. And it's hard letting go because we just want to control everything that's going on. We want it to go a certain way. We feel entitled. Another thing that ended up happening is that our close friends and our family, we kind of separate them out because now we have this person that we're putting on a pedestal. If they want to do something, we're above everyone else. Like, and that's okay to a certain point. However, what starts happening is that these connections are lost. And now, in a time of building that, where you need the people that uplift you and support you, that you can talk to, especially people you trust, I would say a sense of community is what someone needs to now be involved in. So, where, they're with different scenarios, examples, communicating with different people, and gets them out the head about that particular person. But that's a great step in forming connections, not necessarily going to the bar, just forming healthy connections, healthy friendship, healthy, going out with the girls, or, something like that. But it involves relationship with others and friends and family.
So making smarter or better conscious decisions to be around people that are conducive to more, I guess, positive life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? And yet for so many people, it's just not easy.
Yeah, because Amanda, again, it goes into our need for control. We're going to notice a couple of things of, if some called the ego, right? So there are certain things that's going on in that relationship that one is unwilling to let go.
Yes.
Control.
Yes.
The number one factor especially comes into is control, resistance, withholding, right? These are some examples. And the number one thing is that control. But if letting go, it's like, again, it's easier said than done. But recognizing when we know we're controlling, recognizing when we're withholding, recognizing is powerful, because it allows us to see that this is the child acting up and it's not the adult. And by that becomes more awareness. And now, by keep recognizing, you gradually loosen the knot. And may eventually become easier, where you're okay to tell this person, listen. Right? But that involves a lot of working on thyself, and also finding the right connections to help you with that. The right books, the right mentors.
It does. And I love this conversation because it just keeps moving back to everything we're talking about together here, Jamie, moves back to working on thyself instead of pointing the finger, because a lot of people make a mistake of pointing the finger instead of looking within. And when you just suggested them with the help of mentors. So along your journey, I know you've worked with some of the greats, as I've had the privilege of doing as well. What is your advice or take on the importance of having mentors to help you align with yourself or get the life that you truly want and deserve?
So I like to say, Amanda, listen, if someone has done it and they found the formula, why reinvent the wheel? Why have to do everything from scratch? Why not copy the formula for someone who is working and, has a great life and great example to show, right? And that's what it gave me, a fast track. Mentorship allowed me to have that fast track. And listen, it's not about like so easy. It involves doing the work as well.
Yeah.
And being very intentional.
Exactly. And what inspired you to choose the niche of relationships? Did it go back to that first story that you shared, or was there something deeper within you, maybe a calling or intuition that you knew this was your purpose in life?
Yeah, so I would, again, it's tied into, I have a nonprofit called Evolve Parenting, which is start and secure attachment from the start. It provides the education and tools for parents so that they have the resource from the start. So as adults, we have more secure attachments. I don't know if you know anything about attachment theory, but as adults, we have 3 attachment styles that we're either in relationships, we're going to find ourselves either anxious, number 1, number 2 is avoidant, and number 3 is secure. So evolved parenting is really about a new way of having more secure children, which grows up into adults, which forms better relationship, which takes care of their well-being. Better salary, ask and demand a better salary, right? Not settle for less. So, again, I always wonder why I love children so much. They bring me such joy. And Amanda, but studying this work, I realized the connection, because that is where relationship starts.
Mm.
And there's something about shouldering to my purpose and the connection, and then ties into relationship, and it makes sense if you really go. So it's really my true calling. It breaks my heart. And I even do this for free sometimes when someone's very devastated. That as human beings, like, we put our word, we're so below that we're willing to be like a dog over someone who treats us like crap.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can feel that from your heart and soul, that it's very, very meaningful and fulfilling work for you, which is what we're all on this planet to do, is fulfill our own purpose. Let's switch it a little bit, Jamie. What about a healthy relationship? What is your version or your idea of a healthy relationship that can stand the test of time?
Wonderful question. A healthy relationship, right? So, listen, a healthy relationship is really knowing what you want, what that person wants, giving each other that space for self-expression, to be yourself, without trying to change or control, right? And I would say enjoying the journey together, being open and honest and being vulnerable and fully self-expressed. Knowing that person you can tell the silliest thing to, and they would laugh, or the most embarrassing story, and they would be very empathetic. Whatever it is, I believe a healthy relationship is just being yourself, that it's okay sometimes to burp in front of the person. It's all good, right? Like, they still love you for it.
Yeah.
And but a sense of communication. Everything can be resolved in communication. If we have two couples that know how to communicate, know how to resolve the issue, does not go to bed and have a bunch of clutter, which is unresolved conflict, it just builds up into a pile, and that's where you see the divorces, you see the breakthrough. These things takes time. It does not happen just like that. It builds upon itself, builds upon itself, builds upon itself, until two-party explodes. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. You keep doing this. This triggers me. Communication is a vital, vital, vital role with relationship success.
I love this, what you're saying here, because how many times you've probably heard it in your own professional journey, maybe even personally. You fall in love with someone for who they are, and as time goes by, you're trying to change them. You're trying to get them to do what you want to do, live in your values, instead of letting them live in their own values or be the person that you first fell in love with. What advice would you give to couples who are constantly trying to change the other person?
I was actually listening to a series with Deepak Chopra and Oprah, and he was saying something was very, very great to just be aware of, and a reminder. When we judge another, when I judge another, when you judge another, we judge ourselves. We're judging ourselves, right? So whatever that person is doing, that's just something in us that is there, right? That we're not willing to look at. So it may be something there that we're just avoiding, and we're just seeing it in another person. We just want to snap, right? So really and truly, for couples who are doing that, first of all, it's, have a healthy hey, listen, I hate it when the trash is full and it's just there, and you keep, like, can we find a better way to, take out the trash? Maybe it's my turn, your turn, whatever it is, right? Something like that. But it involves, again, communication. Instead of trying to change someone, what would work for you? Like, okay, this bothers me, and I just want to let you know, right? Because I'm creating an amazing, passionate, extraordinary relationship, and I really want us to continue that route. So I just want to say, it's really a pet peeve when the garbage starts overflowing and you don't do anything about it. So how can I better support you with this in a loving way that, it can get done, right? Or whatever it is, right? But talk in such a way that it doesn't seem degrading, put down, and the person is more empowered to do what's there.
I love what you're saying here. I say to my women, I've learned from being married, being with my husband for 23 years, not to henpeck and be, talk over the top of people or berate people. Questions are the answers. How can we? And it's kind of what you just said, and it's really changed the dynamic of my own personal relationship. Instead of telling someone off like a school teacher, asking the question, like you just said, how can we change the way we do our garbage, because it really upsets me when it's overflowing. It really does change it when you ask a question instead of tell somebody off.
Right.
You've got to learn these things. Marriage is an interesting journey. And, we change and we grow and evolve as people. So I'm not the same person as I was when I married my husband 23 years ago when we met. I'm completely different now. So there's different things we've got to learn about each other along the way. And I guess you deal with that all the time in your profession, right?
Absolutely. Yes. One thing I like to say, Amanda, relationships is what allow us to evolve as human being, because there's nothing else that can, whether it's for good or bad. That's the only thing that allows us to evolve as human being.
Yeah.
It's encountering someone, you know what your triggers are, you know where your happy moments are. I mean, can you find us with a wall? Can you find us with a car? Can you find us with a house? Find us with another human being.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you work on yourself, learn about yourself. It really can make a massive, massive impact on relationships from my own experience. And so a question that I'd love to know the answer to, Jamie, is what do you love the most about the work that you do to help other people?
There's so many things. And when you say, what do I love the most, is to see that breakthrough moment when that person finally realized their value, their worth, knowing how incredible they are as a human being, that there's no one else like them. That to me is powerful, because I know that person will go out and accomplish great things, and the world definitely is a better place with more people like that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what's another piece of golden advice or wisdom that you would love to share with women watching this conversation, who are just, relationships are everything to them, with their family, with their children, with their friends, with their partners? What is some other golden advice?
Understanding our emotions, being as emotionally intelligent as possible, and seeing where we usually are stuck, whether we're usually happy, sad, embarrassed, happy, exhilarating. See where in the spectrum we have more common emotions that we're used to experiencing throughout the day. And if we're not aware, we're usually stuck in those same emotions, and it continues, whether it's depression today, depression tomorrow, sadness, disappointment, frustration, overwhelm. And then we notice those are the emotions that keeps repeating. Then we get to change that. What else can what emotions would I like to experience on a daily basis? What about joy? What about peace? What about love? Right? Excitement. And we start now being that. And by being that now, it allows us to have better relationships with others. And that's where it starts with the step, whether the children, whether a spouse, other human beings, and being as emotional and intelligent as possible. And I would say one of them in common is love.
Sensational. Emotional intelligence, being what you want to receive. That's what you're in essence saying. If you want to receive love, be love. Give out the light, give out the energy, give out the goodness, and the goodness will be attracted back. Is that in essence what you're saying?
Of course.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I have one last special question for you, Jamie.
Sure.
What would you specifically love to be known and remembered for?
It's funny that you asked that. I was driving today and I noticed all these cars lined up, and there's this couple of police. So I was like, is that someone's funeral? Because they made a big impact, because there were lines of cars. I don't know how it is in Australia for funerals, but over here, right? These cars just follow the hearse. So that made me think, what would I be like? Wouldn't that be incredible to know the amount of lives I've touched?
Wow.
What would I like to be remembered for? Really, I love to uplift, inspire, and be a contribution, whether big or small, any shape or form. But it's, like today, I helped someone get a new phone they were saving for, right? And it's like something simple as that. It's like, here you go. Oh, absolutely. You can have a new phone. There you go. Go get it. And they're so happy. So just being able to uplift, inspire, and give, which is contribute.
That's absolutely beautiful. And you are in so many ways. The work that you do is incredibly inspiring and incredibly important and invaluable. And is there any parting words of wisdom that you would love to leave with our listeners today, Jamie?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite mentors. It says, if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. Wayne Dyer.
Absolutely. Love that man. Thank you so much. It's just been an absolute pleasure having this conversation, and you being part of the Millionairess movement. I want to say thank you for your contribution because it really has an effect on not only women, but the daughters and then friends and other parts of the family. It really has that butterfly effect. And I want to say thank you from my heart for being part of the movement. It really is just so appreciated, Jamie. So thank you.
And hey, Amanda, I just really want to thank you for what you're doing, because you are making an impact in some shape or form. And you are taking this not lightly. You definitely want to get leaders involved and someone like you that want to spread this message from the goodness of your heart. Thank you for taking this on.
Thank you.
And I know it would touch and reach millions and millions of people, and your legacy will be continued.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. And the whole reason behind the movement was to be on a global stage with global leaders like yourself, where we elevate and we band together to uplift human beings, but mainly women in this space. And without your contribution, it wouldn't be what it is. And we're getting amazing groundswell. This will be seen all over the globe. And that's the beautiful thing about what we're doing here now, connecting like this. And I hope that this is not our last time that we connect, Jamie.
Oh, I look forward to connecting more with you, Amanda.
Yeah. I would love for you to reach out when you're back in Australia, when we open up next year. Perhaps Sydney's only 1 hour flying for us down the road.
Oh, great.
Yes. Would love to come down and meet you in person, and you never know where things could go from here.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
Thank you, Amanda.
You have a fantastic afternoon over there in one of my favorite spots of the world.
Thank you.
Okay, Jamie. Bye now. Bye.